Welcome to Bae Watch,
your go-to guide for all things romance and dating.
We're diving deep into the modern dating pool.
Tune in on Fridays from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on Spirit Live.
Boo! Hey, Bae Watchers. Welcome back to Bae Watch. Let's just go around the room. We got Amy Marciniak here with us. We have Jacqueline Gose and Morgan Cook.
Hey.
And myself, Anne Legio. Hey, guys. Let's jump right into it, everybody.
Woo.
Hey, Bae Watchers. Welcome back to Bae Watch. It's our special Halloween episode, and as always, I'm Anne, joined by Amy and Jacqueline and Morgan. Super exciting.
Should we say what our costumes are?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm losing my spot. Sorry. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Amy.
Hi. I'm Sydney from Scream.
Morgan.
Hi. I'm Tatum from Scream.
Hi, I'm Drew Barrymore from Scream.
Hi. I don't need an introduction.
No introduction needed?
No introduction needed.
Jacqueline, you need to speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? I'm scared.
You can
hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. I won't be in this the whole time, by the way.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Especially because it's hard to breathe.
You can take it off now if you want.
I feel like Anne's gonna kill me.
I'm literally in a wig right now, so if we don't mind actually maintaining a level of costume, that'd be great. Thank you. So I'm gonna be stuck in this whole episode. Okay, let's jump right into it. Today we're gonna be diving into a topic that's been the subject of countless movies, TV shows, and late-night conversations. That's just as tricky and potentially scary as a haunted house. Friends with benefits. We've all heard the term, right? But what does it really mean? Is it as simple as it sounds, or is there more beneath the surface? In this episode, we're peeling back the layers of friends with benefits relationships and exploring everything from their definition to their long-term implications. We'll be tackling some big questions today. What exactly constitutes a friends with benefits relationship? What drives people to enter these arrangements? Are there hidden emotional landmines we should be aware of? And can these casual connections ever evolve into something more? Whether you're curious, considering, or currently in a friends with benefits relationship, this episode promises to offer insights, spark reflection, and maybe even challenge some assumptions. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive into the complex world of friends with benefits. It's time to separate fact from fiction and explore the real deal behind these not-so-simple relationships.
Flawlessly
beautiful.
said.
Thank you, guys.
I'm sorry, my
Hey.
mask hit the
Also,
Nice.
guys, I forgot to say, but if you can't hear yourself, you can turn yourself up on your boxes.
I know
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have done that, yes. And I
Yeah.
can hear myself much better
Also,
now. Thank
Jacqueline,
you.
I hate to say this because I was literally just telling you how much I wanted you to keep the mask on, but I think you should take
I
it
think
off.
I should take
Yeah,
it
I
off.
think you should take it
as
off.
well.
We had our
big
fun.
reveal.
Oh my god! What? It's Jacqueline.
Hey guys.
Jacqueline's the killer.
Please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. Oh yeah,
I
there
will
you
be
go.
in the
I can like
sequel.
much.
Yeah, we
I
can hear you now.
me,
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Who's jumping in first? Jacqueline, that's you.
Me. Okay. Well, thank you for that beautiful intro, Anne.
Thank you.
I feel like to start today's episode, we should kind of define what friends with benefits entails.
Yes.
So, Oxford Dictionary definition. A friend with whom one has an occasional and casual sexual relationship.
Oh, wait. I'm so sorry. Wait, I'm so sorry. Before we get into today's topic,
Oh yes.
let's
oh
throw
my
in
God,
a little
yeah.
content warning because you
yes.
guys deserve it.
Yes.
We
You guys-
like you.
We like to treat you guys.
We just really want to make sure you
Yeah.
guys are knowing what you're listening to. Before we start our show,
yes.
a brief content warning. All ideas and opinions discussed are our own and do not reflect the views or opinions of Spirit Live. Our episodes may contain intimate topics surrounding romantic language, sex, and sexual preferences. So please be advised. Our show may Our show's oh my God, Amy, the way you wrote this is wild. So please be advised, our show's content may contain controversial topics and opinions that may be sensitive to listeners. And with that, Jacqueline, please continue.
Perfect. So self-explanatory, friends with benefits, friends who have sexual encounters. But now, what is a definition of a friend? A person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection, typically exclusive of sexual or family relation. Y'all see the contradiction there?
Yes, I do.
So typically there are two stances, I feel like, on friends with benefits. People who are
Someone was jumping really hard out there, and they were jumping so hard that it was shaking the microphones, and you could hear it.
I was like,
OMG.
did I hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like a quake. Sorry.
Quake.
A quake.
Oh, God. No, it's okay. So typically there are two oppositional stances on friends with benefits. Got it? There's the yay, people who think it's a good idea. Typically people who think that there's like that extra level of comfortability since you guys are friends, so like it makes sense that you guys can explore things with other people and still maintain that friendship. But then there are the nays, okay, people who think it's a bad idea. Typically people who think it's a nay is like when someone always catches feelings and then they ruin the friendship.
Yeah.
So Amy, if you want to maybe pull up, hopefully the audio soon, I just want to listen to this clip real quick. It's about, world-renowned anthropologist Helen Fisher. She went on like this hookup podcast and talked about the inevitable hormonal attachment that comes with casual sex. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
Any kind of sexual stimulation of the genitals triggers the dopamine system in the brain and can push you over that threshold into falling in love with that person. And in fact, with orgasm, there's a real flood of oxytocin and vasopressin, other chemicals in the brain, associated with the feeling of deep attachment. So casual sex is really never casual.
Sorry,
It's very
casual.
It's casual.
yeah. Do you guys want to talk about that a bit? Or?
Yeah. No, I think that's actually kind of interesting, though, that it goes deeper, like, scientifically than people... Because the whole thing
Then
about casual sex is that it's, like, not even that deep. But the fact that, like,
that it is.
it's
It literally
deep
is.
scientifically
It literally is.
Yeah.
is kind of crazy.
Exactly.
I mean, I feel like also, like, in general, like, I feel like with sex, I feel like your brain is, like, I literally cannot see Morgan whatsoever, but it's okay. But I feel like with sex, like, it's like it's so intimate for a reason. And I feel like not bashing necessarily the idea of having non-committal relations with someone, but at the same time I think that it's very naive to be like, yeah, we're gonna have this very vulnerable exchange together, and that's not gonna lead to more, is I think a bit naive to be like, what's what's happening,
especially if you like. I feel like it's easier if it's just one night, but if you continue to see this person and continue to have sex with this person, like you're gonna you're getting feelings.
Exactly with friends with benefits. If the whole premise is focused on keeping it casual, but going into these sexual relations and doing like intimate things, how are you supposed to keep that line? Like, where's the line at?
Yeah.
And so, like our girl Helen said, there's like a chemical rush and hormones in the brain that create connection when we are attracted to someone. And that kind of goes also with the familiarity principle, which basically states we are attracted to what is familiar to us. Which, in the case of friends with benefits, you good, Anne?
I'm good. It's calm. I'm trying to fix the wig. So what if I'm trying to fix the wig? Okay, I'm having difficulty.
I love it. Sorry.
Pardon me.
I hope what I'm saying is also making sense. But
Yes, it is.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, so like because of we are attracted to what is familiar to us. In friendships, it's easier to develop feelings with someone if you already have a lot in common.
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel like with friends with benefits, the whole idea of being friends and keeping it casual, there's some things to consider because it is, at a certain degree, our chemicals in our bodies. It's like are telling us something else.
You're not allowed to swear on this, first of all. It's okay.
It's okay. Keep going.
Just keep going.
Okay.
It's okay.
It's
Don't worry
okay.
about it.
Oh my God, sorry, Spirit Live.
It's okay.
But where was I going with that?
I'll just jump in for a second there. I definitely
do.
feel like with friends with benefits, you're also facing this conundrum of, when people, I feel like people talk about one of the greatest building blocks for romantic relationships is friendship. And so it's also one of those really conflicting things. I feel like if you're, let's say that you are friends with benefits with someone who you actually really get along with, and you're keeping them at arm's length, but also still reaping this benefit physically from them, you're also like kind of at this crossroads of, am I more likely to catch feelings, specifically when having stuff in common, connecting with someone on a platonic level is oftentimes what can lead to something more romantic, especially when you're also adding in a whole different level of physical intimacy with that.
There's also that whole thing that now with dating apps.
Reference to the last episode.
Now with dating apps, it's not even necessarily friends with benefits. It's just casual sex.
Just this person that I see sometimes,
which is
and
arguably
I'm not friends with them.
Which honestly, when you think about that, when people first think about that, they're like, ew. But in the terms of friends with benefits, it's almost slightly better because you don't have that friendship that you could possibly tamper with these feelings.
It's almost as if friends with benefits can either be a relationship that teaches you lessons in life. It's just supposed to be something. It's like a temporary thing. Friends with benefits is a temporary relationship.
Yes.
It's not designed to
it's either going to grow into something else or it's going to stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not I'm going to be friends with benefits with this person for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or for years.
And if that is what you want, why? If that is what you want, and let's say that's something where you're I'm so happy where I'm going, and the idea that you're kind of stagnant in this happy middle, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not looking to get on here and bash someone who is in that position, but at the same time, if you're taking a step back and reflecting after you've been maintaining some weird non-committal arm's distance relationship with someone who you also do in a sense that you do want to spend time with them, but you're both at a position where being together is not possible or not wanted. I'm why is that? Why are we maintaining something that's could be in theory more fulfilling and more open and more generally establish a closer connection, but you're choosing not to? I'm not that it's a bad thing, but it definitely is curious to me because I want to know more.
It's just kind of you guys are already hanging out with each other. You guys are friends. You obviously like each other, and you're also having sex. So why aren't you just in a relationship?
Oh my God! You know what's a perfect story just to throw in there right now?
Yeah.
But when I had a friend who was seeing a fella, and before they got together, they had been seeing each other for a hot second and were practically dating. And at this point, I went up to him at a social event and I was like, so how's your girlfriend? And he was like, oh, that's not my girlfriend. And I was like, but she is.
Hey, she is.
Yeah.
But hey, she kind of is.
But hey, she is.
It is interesting to see everybody else's opinion on it too, because when you literally arrive at an event with someone that you are doing friends with benefits with, everyone's what's going on? And then you guys are both in this position.
It's just awkward.
People come up to you and they go oh, is this your boyfriend? And it's
kind of, but not really.
Yeah. And it's almost kind of it's almost kind of demoralizing in a way, but I also think it's because friends with benefits is very much on the rise. So this is people that have just not even gotten used to the concept. So I wonder if there's ever a world where if you can just say out loud that you guys are friends with benefits.
Yes.
I guess that'd be a whole different level of casuality of just nonchalant.
Well, I was gonna say I feel our generation is very nonchalant.
Oh, I'm so
very.
Sorry.
That I think we are I think our generation is very nonchalant, but we'd like to think that we're very chalant.
I was going to say, I would argue that I feel more people are in situationships now, and more people are in friends with benefits situations rather than being no, we're together.
Yeah.
Because I feel
or being if we're not together, then I don't want to do this anymore. Because I feel a lot of people will stay in the friends with benefits situation even though they want a relationship and the other person doesn't, but they're still so attached to that person, so they stay anyways because they're getting enough of what they could
something
get from a relationship.
Satisfactory, but not at all what they're not at all exceeds expectations.
Yes.
No.
Jacqueline, do you have more to say on that topic?
Well, that kind of just goes into like the emotional impact of like friends with benefits. And I was going to talk more about like, I feel like my personal experiences, like definitely, I think I had a stage in life like where I not kind of glorified.
You're there.
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, but you were like,
the
no,
idea.
like, casuals, yeah,
Exactly. No, because I was like, oh, like I feel like it allows you to have the friendship and then also the benefits without all the like seriousness that like comes with dating and like committing yourself to a person. Like this is when I was like a little bit younger, because I think I was scared of that a little bit.
Yeah.
But once I actually found myself in a friends with benefits situation, I realized quickly that I was wrong.
Yes.
I feel like it's not easier. It's not less dramatic. Like it's, if anything, it made me worry, stress myself, compare myself even more, knowing that the person had no, like they didn't have a commitment to me, so they didn't owe me anything in a way, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would say that this is kind of where things go south when like one person, when you catch feelings for the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to say, oh, this is a very, like, this is what we're doing. We're just seeing each other outside of this. Like,
it's also this thing that like often you don't even jump, you like just jump straight to like having sex.
Yeah.
Like there's never any of that like
There's no other
middle
steps.
stage of like
Right.
getting more used to each other in a romantic way
Yeah,
rather than
like
being
getting to
just
know each
friends.
other, like getting excited.
It's like right away just like sex. And you're
Yes.
like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then
And
you're
then
like,
you're
wait,
like-
but can we revert back to that before this was supposed to happen?
And then you're like cuddling skin to skin with like a stranger in their bed. You met them like
Skin
you
to
barely
skin
know
is a
them.
crazy thing to drop.
Yes. No, literally.
No, but it is accurate
It
though.
is.
It's definitely what I mean, especially when you start to associate as like a woman in like in a very hetero lens. I feel like to have it as like you were me and Mark speaking over the laptop. I feel like specifically in like a heteronormative relationship where it's like guy and girl, having those intimate connections, like having sex or like having like an intimate like cuddle or whatever, with a guy that's telling you that he's only looking for something physical, especially when, let's say that you were looking for more and you're willing to sacrifice those desires just to simply receive attention. Because that's what we all want. It's human to be like, I just want to have this little connection. And if this is the best, oh my God, you can literally see the wig cap while I am talking.
you're good. You're good.
But to think that like that is, you know, kind of the idea that like we can also be conditioned to think that's the best we can get, because that's what men, I feel like, want to bait us into thinking, that getting that all from a guy and having a guy choose you is, you know, peak.
Yeah.
When in reality there's so much more out there. Kind of sucks.
Does that kind of go into the psychology of it?
Yes, it does. I'm trying to play waves hitting the beach right now, but it's not.
Do you want me to do the sound for you?
Do it.
Yeah, do it. And with that, we go on to our next segment. So that was perfect, Jacqueline.
Of course, I got you.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the psychology of dating. What? So I found that like a lot of the psychology of dating is like we've been knew this, like we already know this, and like it goes into a lot of the things that you were saying. So I'm going to start off with the nature of friends with benefits, like how it comes about, which you already like pretty much talked about, and then I'm going to talk about how like enduring through a friends with benefits relationship can like either go south or be good. So starting off with the nature of it. So obviously friends, and then you go into sexual benefits.
Yes.
But it's often not a previously discussed time frame in which you stay in a friends with benefits situation. That's not discussed probably until like the day you guys cut it off.
Yeah.
It's literally like, so how much longer? And then it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't want to really discuss that.
And then
Bye.
you're like, how much longer? And they're like, I don't want a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
And then you're put in a position to be like, well, do I stop it or do
Yeah.
we keep going? Yeah. So people in friends with benefits tend to have a less romanticized view of love while believing that sex can occur independently of love. Friends with benefits involves significant caring but lacks a profound, enduring commitment to each other and most types of sharing. So just sexuality, just sexual motivation is usually how friends with benefits comes about.
Yeah.
Emotional connection can also be something something that comes out of it. So the desire for increased closeness and or intimacy, and then a relationship simplicity. So wanting an easy, natural, and stress-free relationship. So kind of just like cutting that off right from the bat and not even testing this person out. Literally just being like, simple. I don't want you for longer than half an hour.
No pain, no drama.
Yeah.
Just bang.
Yes. And then once that comes about, then that's when like questions are sparked and everything.
Yeah. But it's so easy to say, oh, like I want the simplicity of friends with benefits, but you guys are hanging out on, on one-on-one, like going on dates, and then you guys are also having sexual relationships. Like, why not?
Just be in a relationship.
Yeah, why not be in a relationship?
This is like how that's like pretty much how every single friends with benefits relationship goes, though, is like
where you're
talking to your friends
in a relationship.
Yeah.
You're in a relationship with them, but they're like, sorry, babe.
No, it's literally like you're in a relationship with them, but you're not going to have like Valentine's Day dinner.
Yeah.
It's literally like you're just going to be you're basically in a relationship without any of the responsibilities.
Yeah.
Or the fun parts about being in a relationship.
Yeah.
No, literally like the silly, goofy, I don't even know. I mean.
And that's when it becomes like that's when you realize that like, well, this is also a really like negative outlook on it. Like I found research of like people that found a more positive spin on friends with benefits. But to continue, I found this girl called the Sassy Psychologist, guys. So you can trust her. She said both people who agree on being friends with benefits are doing so for their own legitimate psychological reasons: insecurity, fear of commitment, fear of getting hurt, previous relationship trauma, difficult past breakup, and flawed parenting or caregiving.
Flawed parenting.
Yeah,
it's your mom's fault that you want to be in a friends with benefits situation. Come on, it's your mom's fault.
So yeah, people in friends with benefits tend to have a less romanticized view of love, while believing that sex can occur independently of love. So that was just a whole abundance of reasons that people get into it, which is literally being like, you're weird, you like had a flawed parentage.
Yeah, like why is it?
That's like I would say that's like a rather aggressive way of looking at it. Because I don't think that it's like fair to come up with that though.
Yeah, because typically in those situations where it's like, it's, in a positive light, if the two parties going into friends with benefits are both agreeing with the same goal, like this is purely just open communication. I feel like it's like the big thing of making
setting
it
boundaries.
work.
I was gonna say
Making it work though. I don't even know what making it work stands though.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Making it work going into
that goes into my endurance part. So endurance through a friends with benefits situation pretty much blurs the line between casual sex, and romantic relationships. This generates various normative difficulties. So a girl named Laura Macchia said about 1/3 of participants in her survey reported that relationships did not survive its first year, and the majority of those whose relationship endured beyond that later turned into a regular friendship, while the majority of those who wanted to transition into a romantic relationship did not do so.
Yeah.
So she then did 2 different surveys, but the first one is like the main one. So she asked what they hoped would happen to their current friends with benefits relationship in the future, how satisfied they were with their relationship, and how much they communicated about relationship rules and boundaries. And then the last question was, we asked whether the nature of the relationship was the same or if it had changed over time, and if so, why. So the results said 26% were still in friends with benefits relationship, 15% had become romantic partners, 28% had gone back to being just friends, and 31% reported having no relationship of any kind with their former friends with benefits relationship.
See, now
that's like 1/3 of people.
Yeah.
That's like, those are quite big numbers. I'm not gonna lie. Like, even though there were a lot, like
different
that's
spices,
quite,
but that was still like a big
That's
chunk.
a big portion.
It's literally saying that like you never hang out again.
Exactly.
Like,
which is rather common with like people that I know have been in friends with benefits relationships.
That's what every single friends with benefits situation I've ever been in, I do not speak to them
anymore.
I have not spoken to them since we stopped.
But here's the thing is like I think that it really comes out of a maturity level. Speaking from like you said, like a heteronormative stance. Like we've all been in friends with benefits relationships, and I think we've all been the ones to kind of cut them off. And I don't know, I tried not to look at it from a women versus man standpoint if we're speaking heterosexual, but a lot of the time, like, sorry to say,
say it,
but it's getting hard to defend you men. and women are like biologically more developed, or like their brains are a lot more developed than so I think that the maturity level is really where it comes down to whether or not you will advance out of the relationship as friends
definitely.
or in a relationship. And like my conclusion was just that, like, I think that people that came out of it and went into a relationship were not only more mature, but they were older. They were late 20s, early 30s, but like that's my own conclusion. But then like people who like us ended it and didn't become anything afterwards, not even friends, it just comes from like a more youthful standpoint of like we recognize our value and they just aren't ready to recognize their value. And it's not like they don't recognize it in us, maybe they don't, but it's like they haven't even developed to the point where they can recognize their own before they recognize someone else's. So that's why they won't like commit at all. And it's like at that point you're like, I can't help this person. I literally can't do anything.
You're a lost cause, I can't do it.
So
there's like almost so much, there's only so much we can take, I feel.
No, truly.
But also that 15% does of like people
going to relationships
after the friends with benefits stage, I feel like can sometimes
that gives us a little too much hope. That gives us a little bit too much hope.
But also that makes me question, like, well, how long were they in a friends with benefits relationship?
No, truly, I'm like, does friends with benefits count as like 2 weeks? Or does that count as like you were maintaining that for like a year? Like, what does that look like?
It's really,
I will.
Continue. Sorry, Jacqueline.
No, I was gonna say, because I feel like it is very like, because like I know people whose friends with benefits have turned into relationships. It does make me more hopeful sometimes, or not only me, but like I feel like other people in certain situations where they're like, I feel like I have to stick this out, like, you know, like it will happen kind of thing. But that's not always the case.
You know what I will say? Similar to our, right now I'm thinking about how last week when we were talking about with online dating, how there feels like the issue with not being able to find someone comes from a point of perfection. I'm thinking that there's someone better out there. I think that it's kind of the opposite side of the same coin with friends benefit situations, because whereas online where you might think, I have endless options, I think as a woman, once you feel like you've locked a guy in by getting the affection of like sex, I think that with that, and let's say it is good sex, let's say that like this is a man who like somehow understand, like even though you're not getting a romantic connection necessarily, is someone who's satisfying you physically. I think as a woman, flip side of the online dating point of view, it's like it's the opposite where you're like, well, maybe there's no one else right now. Maybe this is the best I can find sexually, or even just in a friendly way where we can maintain some kind of good boundary where like I find you pleasant enough to stay around. So where like finding guys in person that are good rather than online, I feel like you have the opposite where it's like there's none of good guys in person, whereas online it feels a little bit more like
they're all there for you right there, and you can just swipe right through them.
No, that's so fair. That's a great point, because I will say that I feel like when because it's true. Like when you find someone who you can connect well, you guys are in a friendship, you guys are cordial, you guys have things in common, and then there's also that intimacy like aspect where you guys connect well with like sexual intimacy. Why would you look for something else?
Exactly.
Like, why would you look elsewhere?
Especially if it's like you promising like, if the sex is good enough, then maybe he'll think to date me.
Or
things like that where it's like
that's where then you're conforming to someone else's romantic standards. And I think like friends with benefits, but heavy on the friends and less heavy on the benefits. Like let's put that aside. Like
friends that kiss every now and then. But hang out most of the time. Please.
Like honestly,
I feel like the sad part too with like sometimes ending friends with benefits is like you're losing that friend. Rather than like the benefits, because obviously like you know you can
like a whole other added layer to this of like if it is again a heterosexual relationship where it's like a man and a woman, it's like also like, do you see me as like a female friend that's like equal to those of your like faith in your male friendships, or am I just like another like woman that happens to have the parts that you like?
It almost helps you question like did you always see this happening?
Yeah.
Because I didn't.
Yeah.
And like, did you plan for this?
And can you visualize yourself being friends with me outside of a sexual relationship?
Yeah.
Do you see me being a woman in your life that you don't see as a sexual object to literally get off with?
Yeah.
No, that's true. I feel like a lot of times like girls might feel perceived or deceived or like delusional for like and regretting to like have explored those feelings when in a heteronormative like sense, like if the guy did the move first, like they regret having explored things sexually and they kind of just miss their friend.
Yeah.
Are we doing a
Oh my god.
That was so well timed. There we are again. Just a second reminder. And a third. But we do have to move on to our song of the day, which you're going to like this one. All you
guys are going to like this one.
But yeah, after this, we'll move on to Morgan and Anne's segment. Hang in there.
Hey, it's me.
We're back.
We're back. I'm going to be talking about a way to make maybe friends with benefits work. If you're going to be in a situation, you should be setting boundaries within your relationship.
I just accidentally cut to the Bae Watch cover, but that's fine.
Cute.
Continue, Morgan. I want to hear more about this.
Setting boundaries is scary, especially because I feel like in my situations, I haven't like set boundaries properly because I was scared that if I set boundaries, they would leave. If I would be like, hey, let's define what this is and what we're doing, and they would be like, this is too much for me, and I want to leave. Which is like what we were
talking about before, which is like once you bring up the question of how long are we doing this for, then they're like,
exactly,
and you're like,
exactly,
bye.
Yeah,
it's like time to go.
But so I just asked myself a couple questions and then I answered them. I went on to it's a counseling website that I found. Yes. So why is setting boundaries important?
Tell me, Morgan.
Well, first of all, it sets clear expectations for what you both are looking to get out of your connection, which helps mitigate misunderstandings that can lead to a lot of emotional turmoil, obviously. So, like, it just makes sure that both of you guys are clear on what you're doing. Especially because if you go into it and one of you is like, this is super duper casual and I'm not gonna talk to her outside of this, and we will only ever speak when we're together and we're having sex, and the other one might think, I'm going on a date with I'm going on a date with someone.
I love him.
But that's just not what they were looking for. Boundaries also maintain mutual respect by defining what is acceptable behavior and what is not. Prevents both parties from overstepping. I wrote here, protects your peace, baby.
So true, though.
Yeah,
so true, though.
I have this in all caps. Prevents one party from developing unreciprocated feelings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you sit down when you start it and you go, and one person goes, I'm not going to develop feelings for you, then the other person can go, okay, cool,
Same.
great.
Yeah,
So I'm not like,
I didn't like you in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into this with the expectation that you're not going to develop feelings for me.
Yeah.
And so then you can actually have a casual relationship. And it also avoids jealousy and resentment.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you communicate your boundaries? Very important. Because it's very scary, I feel like. Yes.
Which, like, it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be at all. It should be normal. Everybody should be doing these things, especially in a relationship that can be so, like, wishy-washy. Oh my God, guys, we only have 10 minutes left.
Don't worry.
Okay. Sorry. But you communicate your boundaries clearly and calmly.
Yeah.
Really income me.
Yeah, they seem scary, but they're so crucial if you want to come out of a friends with benefits emotionally well.
Or honestly, any friend, any relationship in your life. I feel
Yeah.
like maintaining boundaries is one of those practices where, as we've especially become adults outside of high school, and you start paying your own bills and you start buying your own food, doing things like establishing boundaries within any relationship in your life, whether it be professional, platonic, romantic. It's the kind of thing you want to be able to get into practice of. And a friends with benefits relationship is a great set of practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Normalize protecting your peace.
Seriously.
Protecting my peace.
When you're communicating your boundaries, you also want to define the terms of the relationship. Very important. I also have this in all caps. Discuss and agree on emotional limits. How, like, if you guys are open to like developing feelings during the casual relationship, if you're not, and that'll save you a lot of heartbreak. You respect space and privacy, pretty self-explanatory. You review and adjust your boundaries as you need it. Be flexible within your boundaries and let your partner be flexible within their boundaries as well, because you can change those, especially if like you start off and you both are like, we're not developing feelings. And then someone does develop feelings, and then you can go back and be like, hey, I'm developing feelings for you. How do you feel about this? And they can be like, I don't feel comfortable with that. And then you can be like, okay, great. So we're going to stop.
Yeah.
And it's so much
has
easier.
Their own sets of like needs and like desires in a relationship. So I feel like exactly what you're saying.
Exactly.
Just setting the like agreements.
Also, I have a good point of I feel like so much, at least from a female perspective, if you're in a friends with benefits relationship or looking to get into one or curious about them in general, I think having a good set of friends that are actual platonic friends who you feel close with, and having different people to basically rebound those boundaries off of.
A
and
support system.
Get a vibe of kind of like, you know, am I delusional? Do I need to be more realistic? Do I need to reel it back? Do I need to dive more in? Anything like that. I think having solid friends to basically check you and and like who have your best interest in mind.
I know Anne's kept me in check.
Yeah.
Anna's kept me in check a couple times.
Also
Yes.
I just be checking my baes. I just be checking my baes at every turn.
I'll be like, Anne, like a man did this, and she'll be like, ghost him.
Yeah.
Ghost him.
Ghost him.
Ghost him.
Don't unfollow, block.
Because especially in a friends with benefits relationship, it's hard to not give someone the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's like always what it comes down to when you're trying to like establish boundaries. You're like, oh, but like I think I'm just overthinking it. And that's when you start thinking that when you haven't set boundaries. Because if you set boundaries, then you wouldn't even be thinking about it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's such a good point. Like giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, they're just not ready. Oh, they just got out of a breakup.
Maybe
like,
but he's so sad. Like
he's just sad and
He's
pathetic,
just
and like he's
sad.
just so cute. Like I swear he's nice. I swear.
break him.
And we're all like, okay.
Yeah.
Is he though?
Right.
Is he?
Block and unfollow.
Totally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also have here some boundaries that you can set. Like, are you exclusive? That should be the first one that you that you say.
Definitely.
Like
Exclusive, like in a friends with benefits relationship.
Yeah, like are you okay with the idea of like if we're casual, quote unquote, can I go and
can I have sex with
other people?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So an exclusive friends with benefits would just be
Basically a relationship.
Yes.
yeah.
Basically a relationship,
but they still don't want to commit.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
a monogamous, like you only see each other, but it's like
a monogamous
in a
fling,
friends with
if you will.
benefits.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
How often are you guys seeing each other? What activities will you be doing? Like, Oh no.
Just it's okay.
Okay.
Give your closing remarks.
What activities you will be doing? Like, are you just hanging at each other's house? Or are you going on actual dates? Discuss the emotional aspects and what you'll do if one person does develop feelings. Any limitations on sex and physical intimacy? Are either of you open to developing deeper emotional connection? Will you hang out with their friends? Will they hang out with yours?
Yeah.
Will you participate in like romantic things like dates and holding hands and cuddling and being affectionate in public? How often and through what platform will you communicate when you're not physically together? What information about your arrangement will you share with others? Can you spend the night at their house? Can they spend the night at yours? And also set guidelines about canceling or rescheduling hanging out.
Yes. Very, very good points.
Thank you.
It's just like normalize like being a robot and talking about these though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we're so freaking nonchalant
Yes.
that
Yeah.
even when we're doing boundaries, we're like, yeah, just like
be chill.
I don't want them to
mind
think I
me.
care too much.
Yeah. What is with that?
That's true.
Like normalize
I
being
care.
like sit down, Morgan. I think we need to
think
talk
we need to
about
chat.
how we go about
Yeah.
doing this.
I think our generation is also very non-confrontational.
yes.
That's
Yeah.
social media there for you.
Yes.
That's texting there for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Just pull someone for a chat. A little
Yeah.
chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that, let's jump into the long-term outlook. We got 7 minutes left. We're going to speed some of this. We're going to
Hell
slow
yeah.
down some of it. Generally, I looked at 2 different studies talking about kind of what can come up, similar to what you did of like percentages, or was that you? Percentages of kind of like what lasting like outcomes can be.
Oh, yeah.
Generally. So one was with a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships. Okay. And they found that friends with benefits doesn't necessarily doom a relationship, but in general, it can be a non-factor in their survey of whether or not a relationship can be healthy and viable. The lead researcher was kind of just as surprised as we are, I feel like, hearing that, because generally I think it is a factor, but whatever. He expected the inherent instability of friends with benefits relationships to negatively impact the future of committal relationships, but that's not exactly what they found. After controlling for factors like attachment styles and such, they found that no significant links between friends with benefits origins and communication quality. What? What was I saying there? Let's just keep going. Generally speaking, after 4 months, couples with friends with benefits history were no more likely to separate than those without. Basically saying that if you are in a committed relationship, if you have friends with benefits history in your couple like origin story, it doesn't necessarily mediate whether or not you are going to prosper and be viable.
Interesting. Well, yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on will you just come out of a friends with benefits relationship, and it's not.
That transform into more?
And then once that transforms into more, what's the longevity of it?
Exactly. So that specific survey was saying that with friends with benefits relationships, it's not necessarily, like if you do, out of those that do become committed relationships, it's not necessarily a factor in whether or not you will last. Honestly, I think it would be more viable in my opinion, because if you're starting as friends in theory, then I again believe friendship is a great basis for dating. So anyway, so that was interesting. That was kind of the first survey. Overall, their takeaway was that don't judge a relationship by its origins. That was kind of the general idea of you can judge it more by how partners communicate and commit to each other in general. And it goes to show that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, even in a friends with benefits situation. So that's interesting. My second study, though, was a little bit more cynical. It was in Psychology Today. They conducted a survey of almost 200 people in friends with benefits relationships that revealed some fascinating results. After following the individuals for a year, the researchers uncovered that about 25% managed to stay in friends with benefits relationships with that same person, and those relationships were just kept up. About a quarter of them. 15% evolved into full-fledged romantic partners. 28%, 30, reverted back to just friends, and then the other 30% had the relationships end. So this is similar. I
think this is because I also looked at Psychology Today.
There you go. Yeah. So generally that was interesting. Those hoping to remain just friends were more successful. About 60% would achieve their goal. If you were looking to remain friends, that's statistically with Psychology Today. Their survey found that that's statistically more likely. Long-term friends with benefit seekers had a 40% success rate, but the real surprise was that only 15% of those hoping for true love actually found it. 15%. If you're living in a friends with benefits relationship, Psychology Today says you have a 15% chance of actually making it to something committed. While these findings aren't certainly representative of all friends with benefits relationships, of course, and there's definitely more research that could be warranted on this topic, they do suggest a few important conclusions. One is that friends with benefits appear to be a temporary arrangement that either dissolves or changes forms in less than 1 year. Generally speaking, it's less likely to be maintained as a friends with benefits relationship over a long period of time. That's going to change more likely over the course of a year.
I have a question.
Please.
But so out of that 60% where you say that the friends with benefits, they go back to being friends, how platonic do we think their friendship, or how long do we think that friendship would last? Because
I think it honestly can depend. That's not the right thing. I got to cover again. God damn it. I feel like from those that I know, also if we've been talking so much about heterosexual relationships, I feel like in terms of the gay community or like queer community in general, I feel like having like a hookup or like a general something casual is something that's a lot more accepted within the community.
I also think it's way better maintained. Way better.
I think that generally speaking, like more queer representation, I think that friends with benefits can definitely maintain friendship outside of sexual relations.
Absolutely.
But that's specifically because I would argue that it's more likely that you're still viewed as a proper friend rather than just a sexual outlet.
Sexual object.
Yeah. Whereas in, I think, a more heterosexual lens of it, you're less likely to find a man who's still going to view you as a full person after
having sex with you.
So I guess like with that, let's ask if we all support friends with benefits.
Yay or nay?
What was our question of the episode?
Yay or nay?
Yay or nay? Okay, and you go first.
Personally, I say nay. I'm not in for it. I am a relationship girl. especially after like throwing my hat in the ring for that game every now and then before today. I think I've learned my lesson, and the answer is nay.
Morg, how do you feel?
I think I have to say nay for myself as well. I'm kind of similar to Anne, that I've done my time. I did my dues, and now I don't want it anymore. Thank you very much.
Jack, how do you feel?
Similar to you, I've done my dues.
Yes.
I've lived in that 15%, but I would say just in the future a nay, personally.
I would say nay. I've lived, I've laughed, I've cried. And I personally don't feel like it's worth it. But that's also not to say...
That's also not bashing.
That's also not to say, though, that
it couldn't
you
work
should
for you.
say nay because you have... Or, like, I don't think you should go into one because you don't have the experience of one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're all saying nay because we've gone through it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you should go into one because you've never experienced it, because it might not be worth it.
No.
But if you do experience it, I think you should do it properly.
I think if you have feelings for something that feels right, you should do it.
You should do it.
Trust
And
your
if you're in a
instincts.
successful one right now, you go, girl.
All the
Yes.
power to you.
Yeah.
But
Set your boundaries.
that was going to be my main point. Is I think that our takeaway from this episode is set yourself some clear boundaries.
Yeah.
Make yourself some good friends.
Yeah.
And make the best choices for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aw.
Protect your
Love
peace.
love yourself
Protect your
before
peace.
you love anyone else.
So true.
That's very true.
With that, tune
Wait.
into next week's
Can I
episode.
show my boots?
Do it right now.
I got boots on. Can you
This one,
see?
this one.
Maybe you can show it in mine.
Oh my god.
Are we on
I was just on Morgan's camera. No, it's okay. Tune into next week's Bae Watch episode entitled Queer Dating, A New Era of Acceptance, where we'll have a guest interview with Sarah on next week's episode.
From Next
Super
in
exciting.
Queue.
Yes,
On
Next
Spirit
in Queue
Live.
on Spirit Live. Thank you so much for listening. You can see us on Fridays at 12:10 on Spirit Live.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.